Welcome back to Stuff About Money They Didn't Teach You in School. I'm Xavier Angel, certified financial planner, and I am joined with my co-host, Erik Garcia, certified financial planner. Erik, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Look, today we've got a guest on, a special guest, Jeff Rodriquez. Man, I've been knowing Jeff now for about 16, 17 years. He's a graduate of University of Louisiana Monroe School of Pharmacy. And when he came out, he was with Winn-Dixie Pharmacy for probably 13 years, 13, 14 years. Left Winn-Dixie and started his own pharmacy, Rodriquez Pharmacy, in 2005. So, Jeff, how you doing this morning?
Pretty good, Xavier. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, Erik. Good meeting you.
Yeah, man, you're the first ever drug dealer we have on our podcast. I don't know if compliance is going to approve this.
Legalized, huh?
Definitely. So, Jeff, tell us a little bit, tell our listeners something about you.
Okay, so my name's Jeff Rodriquez. I'm 45 years old. I graduated from University of Louisiana Monroe, 2005. Worked in retail for 13 years. After I left Winn-Dixie after 13 years, I worked in some specialty pharmacy. I worked long-term care, a couple little part-time, positions until I decided to open up my pharmacy about 2 years after I left Winn-Dixie. So I kind of bounced around a couple of different places. I've owned my pharmacy, Rodriquez Family Pharmacy in Kenner, for the past 3 years. We opened up right January. I think COVID was in March, so we opened up right before COVID. It's been a lot. It's been a long road. It's been great. I have a wife and 2 daughters, and they spend a lot of time in there with us, helping us out with the pharmacy. And we're here today.
So most small businesses, when they say, "Hey, we opened right before COVID," it's typically like a bad story. Like, man, we opened right before COVID. It was just bad timing. But I guess for a pharmacist, that's like a great time to open, right?
It is, but it's still, you're unsure of what's going to happen next. You're opening up and you don't have any patients coming in the door. Patients don't want to, they're scared to go into the pharmacy, scared to go out to restaurants, things like that. So how am I going to get these new patients in my door during this time? And I think, it's one of the big question marks I had, and kind of nervous. So
I've got to ask then, so what was it that you did different that allowed you to still continue to have that growth during that time?
Well, really, I think it was the vaccines. It was a big part of getting people to go to the pharmacy, leave their house. They came in, we promoted it on our website. They came in, they were, we're trying to get their other, their prescriptions, as well as have a good feeling about our pharmacy when they came in and got their COVID vaccine. So that was a big driving point for the pharmacy. And that's where kind of really it took off. I had some old patients, older customers of mine, patients from Winn-Dixie, found out where I was. They came over, people in the neighborhood, just come walking by. So it's a combination of a couple different things.
Very cool. We're going to get
the two. Yeah. So the two of us kind of, you mentioned something there that you got some of those patients who left Winn-Dixie. They found out where you were, and they wound up following you over to the pharmacy, to Rodriquez Pharmacy. So
Yes.
One of the things that I find fascinating is when we start looking at those family-owned pharmacies versus those big box pharmacies, and you hear that people on a regular basis, they're looking for that family-owned pharmacy. What do you think the difference is?
I think the biggest difference is the relationship that you have with the patient. They see the same face every time they go to the pharmacy. It's not a different person. You're willing to go the extra mile and help them. You have the time to help them because you can hire more staff. I think, the prices were a lot of people think that because you're independent that you're going to be more expensive, and that's not true. We can match or beat any competitor's price. I think that product availability is another thing. I had a police officer come in. He needed some support stockings. And I was like, look, don't get these cheap ones off the shelf you're going to find somewhere. Let me get a good reputable company and we'll go from there. And you can try different ones, see which one you like better. So that really, that relationship and taking the time with the patients, minimal wait times in the pharmacy. You're not behind 15 people in line and nobody knows your name.
And you said it there, relationships. Those relationships that you guys have built are lasting. I mean, you guys understand and know your patients, not just what they're taking that one time they walk in, but you're able to coordinate that medication with everything else that they're on. And you guys have, if I'm correct, you've got 3 to 4 in your pharmacy, and each one of those individuals, I've heard you guys, someone walks in that front door, you're calling them by name. And that,
exactly.
That's what people are looking for.
Sounds like a Cheers episode. Everyone knows your name, right? Come to Rodriquez Pharmacy, where everybody knows your name. All right. I'm gonna put the brakes on pharmacy talk here for a second, okay? And I got to ask questions, Jeff. This is what we ask all of our guests. This is a money show after all, so we do have to talk about money just to check the box. So tell us something about money today that you wish they would have taught you in school.
Well, back in school, we didn't have any. We had one finance class, I think it was, in pharmacy school. Back then you really weren't in tune with that. You were more worried about disease state management, some of these other classes. There wasn't a whole lot of focus on that. So being that you get out of school, you're making 6 figures plus. I think a lot of, that really you want to learn how to manage your money when you graduate. You've been in school all these years, you graduate, now you're out there, kind of free. You have this time when you're off and you're like, how can I spend my money, right? So a lot of people, they get that and they want to go with it. And they're like, but a lot of times we forget, how to manage our money. Where can we put our money to invest some of that money? So I think that's the biggest thing is, basically, you kind of just, what should I do more? You want somebody to kind of lead you in the right direction.
So is that your experience where you look back graduating from pharmacy school, you're in the world, you're working, you're getting paid good money. And then when you say manage it, are you talking about like how to spend it better, how to save it better, how to invest it better? Is that kind of when you say, are those like the 3 things under manage?
Correct. Yeah. I think just, money management really, how to, it's a balance, right? We all want to spend money. We work hard for it. So it's all about just a balance between how to spend it, how to save it, those kind of things. A lot of people, they graduate, they're making this money and they just don't know what to do with it. They're like, should I save it and put it in my bank?
Yeah.
Should I invest it? Should I, so they really don't give you any guidance, for young pharmacists graduating.
Yeah. I don't think they give guidance to really anyone graduating. I think you said something in your earlier remarks that was, I think, key, and I want to signpost it here for people, is you made the mention of having someone to guide you. There's some people who grew up with parents that might have taught them good skills about money, and maybe some of us had that experience. We have like this internal sense of, I have an idea of what to do because I've got a model that I can watch.
Sure.
People don't have that. So I think it is important to have some external person kind of guide you, whether it's a financial planner, a financial advisor, a mentor, someone who can speak some wisdom to you and say, hey, look, you're making good money. And it's hard to see right now, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years out. But you can make some really life-changing decisions today with your money. And I'm kind of your eyes in the future. And it's hard because you're like, man, if I got this money, I want to go drive I want to go drive what everyone else is driving. I want to go buy my dream house at 25. My forever house at 23. It doesn't work that way. All right. True. So manage money. Let me ask this a different way real quick. And then Xavier, you could talk drugs all day long after this. Okay. What's something about, because a lot of our listeners are business owners. We have some pharmacist business owners. We have some business owners that own insurance agencies. So I mean, you talked about your dilemma about COVID. How am I going to get clients? I mean, I think that's like the business owner struggle is, man, I can have a great business, but if I don't have anyone to sell my product or service to, I'm gonna go hungry. So what's something about operating a business, specifically a pharmacist, that today that would have been really helpful to you if you would have known it when you launched?
Well, I mean, you go into a business and a lot of people don't have any aspect or a plan. How much money is it going to take me to do this business, to open it up, to start a pharmacy? I had no idea, how much money it was going to take. To read all this stuff online, and you can't really go by that. It's people that probably took that amount of money, 500,000, 300,000, and said, this is what I took. But, going in and just basically, watching your money, watch what you're spending it on. My family, we built this whole pharmacy out ourselves. So, I was in there till 2 o'clock in the morning, doing sheetrock, painting, putting up cabinets. It's really about going in and managing your money correctly, watching how much money you're spending, opening a business. And, going back 20 years ago, I wish I would have known a lot of these things. It would have set me up. I probably would have opened the pharmacy sooner.
Yeah.
A lot of it's, you want to have that experience, but also you want to, make sure you're doing things right. And I probably would have opened it sooner.
Man, I'm glad you said this. Part of the motivation for Xavier and I to launch this podcast, Stuff About Money They Didn't Teach You in School, is that we were having conversations with a lot of people, and we're seeing this just, around us, where people don't know much about money, or they don't. Let me put it this way: they go into situations with their eyes wide shut. They have no idea what's ahead of them, and by the time they get the experience, it might be too late, or they're further down the road. So I love this idea of going into a situation eyes wide open. Like, what don't I know? Let me surround myself with people who can act as as eyes for me, who've experienced it, who've walked down that path, who could speak wisdom into me. Because I need people who've done it before to shortcut some of the learning processes. And I like how you said that about, you're reading about what other people did. You're trying to get information on, hey, how did other people do this successfully? So I like that. I think that's really good advice to anyone who wants to start a business is, man, find someone, pay someone if you have to glean their knowledge, their experience, because that will definitely lead to you making money much faster.
Jeff, what was that one thing that drove you? What was that desire that drove you to decide to take that leap of faith and start your own pharmacy?
That's a good question. Looking back, you would have asked me 10 years ago, I would have said, I'm not going to open a farm. I never had any thoughts of opening my own pharmacy. I mean, it was always there. Like, it'd be nice to, you have your own freedom. I think the biggest thing for me is when I got let go of Winn-Dixie. It was kind of unexpected. They let a lot of pharmacists go. They closed a lot of stores, and I love retail, but I guess coming from a chain, I wasn't going to go back to a chain. I said, the best thing for me to do to get back in retail, and I love talking to my patients. I love helping my patients. I have a lot of experience. I worked hard, long hours, and I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it myself. And that's when I was, me and my wife decided to open the pharmacy about 2-3 years after I got let go. And it's been a great experience. Looking at it, if you want something, go get it. If you're passionate about it, research it, take the time and do it. And that's the driving force for me was basically just, my passion for it. I knew that if I put everything into it, it would happen.
So you mentioned passion, and you mentioned if you would have known this sooner, you would have made this leap of faith earlier. So looking at in May, we're coming up on May. So now we have these graduating pharmacists, and not just pharmacists, but we've got these graduating classes of seniors that are graduating from college. What is one piece of advice that you would give them as they're nearing graduation? And I'm going to ask that two ways. So first one, I'm going to leave it broad, and then I'm going to come back and ask it another way.
Okay. So the biggest thing I think is, the graduating class coming out, a lot of these students or graduates have $200,000 to $300,000 in student loans. They have rent, car note. It's a lot different than when I graduated. I didn't have that much. Tuition was a lot less. And I think the big thing for students now is find a financial advisor if you're not money savvy, if you're not a saver, you really need to manage things right, because it can spiral out of control if you are a spender and, don't look at things from that angle. You really have to sit down and say, how am I going to pay my loans off? How am I going to manage my money? And if you're not good with that, you need somebody that can help you.
And I think that's a powerful piece. So, I talk to individuals now, and they say that same thing. They wish they would have had that thought partner, that financial planner to work with them coming out to start looking at how do we manage money. So I want to ask it in a second way as well.
Oh, Xavier, before you ask the
Yes.
follow-up question, I want to make one comment on something that you said, Jeff. I think is so important, is the student loan piece. Is people graduating student loans. Student loans are they're complicated. There's a lot of different options that graduates have to pay back these loans, and to understand all your options is so important. Because sometimes it doesn't make sense to pay it off uber aggressively. Sometimes, there's some income-based options. There's like 8 or 9 different ways that you can pay back your student loans, depending on if they're federal, if they're private. Obviously, there's a lot of nuance to it. But Xavier, to your question about graduating pharmacists with student loan debt, man, you got to figure that out from the jump.
You do.
Right, absolutely. Because as Jeff mentioned, $200,000-$300,000. That is a large amount of money.
Another thing is, when I graduated, when I was in school, they called me down to the financial aid office and said, you maxed out on your subsidized loan. I had to go out and get private loans. And these things were sitting at 15 to 20% interest rates. I had no idea. Nobody told me. I just knew that I needed it to keep moving forward. Yeah. And so when I graduated, I'm paying on these things for like a year. And I said, well, it's got to be knocked down by now. I go back and look at it, hasn't moved. I'm paying nothing but interest. And
it's bigger, right? The worst is like when it's bigger.
And I'm like, there's no way, It's like, if I would have had somebody to kind of help me along, financial planner, financial advisor, to look at these things, hey, you need to pay these off right now, Jeff. Save your money, pay them off. Right. And you got to get rid of these things quick.
so paying them off, but in addition to paying them off, take what you need. Don't take more than what you need. All too often, exactly. I see individuals who are walking in and they may need 30,000, but they're going to take 80,000 because then they can do other things with that money. So take what you need.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the second part to that question then is, and this is specific to our graduating pharmacist. What piece of advice would you give to them?
Well, the biggest thing I would say is, don't get stuck in one place too long. If you are happy where you are, stay, but also keep your knowledge of your pharmacy practice, whether it be specialty, compounding, retail, hospital. Keep that open mind, keep that experience. Don't get stuck in a hospital and don't do retail. Because you never know what can happen. Look what happened to me, got let go, and I'm only really retail experience for 13 years. You start forgetting a lot of the compounding stuff you learned, and you're kind of limited to where, your work experience really at that point. So I'd say definitely broaden your knowledge, expand. If you want 2 or 3 jobs, take on that if you want. Just keep your knowledge, keep the window open. I would say, try to save money, try to get with a financial planner, somebody who can help you manage your money, guide you in the right direction. That's really the 2 big things right there. I can say I wish I would have done better.
And I think that's, go ahead, Erik.
No, I was just going to say, I can't agree with you more. I mean, I think you've recommended people hire a financial planner 3 times already on our podcast, and I can't disagree. I think that's great advice.
Sure. I mean,
no.
I think we get stuck sometimes. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned that second one, save as much money as possible, now. And, I've heard that often with professional people, right? They graduate, they're not saving as much as possible. Life happens, they get married, they have children, they get on more debt. And then they start thinking about saving. Rather than saving as much as possible now when you first get out and you don't have the responsibilities as you do later in life. I think that is an excellent piece of advice.
Yeah. On that same point, Jeff, you talk about keep your options open. And as you're talking, like I didn't realize there's so many different things within pharmacy, right? There's retail, there's hospital, there's compound. As you say it, I guess it makes sense. The time to explore is probably when you're young and you don't have the financial obligations that you might have when you're, in your mid 30s into mid 40s, right? So this is the time to see what you really enjoy, I would imagine, about your industry.
Sure. Definitely. I agree.
Now, I'm curious, as an independent pharmacist, like you can kind of incorporate a lot of those different aspects, right?
You can get left just because I'm an independent pharmacist. You can have like long-term care contracts with nursing homes. You can get into specialty pharma, which we do. We have a specialty drug that we dispense. Hospital, not really, because it's more geared to just like hospital work, IV things.
Yeah.
But yeah, specialty. You can incorporate that with retail, long-term care. It all kind of comes together if you're able to get the contracts, things like that. Go out and secure those things. So it's just about what kind of business you want to run. Basically. A lot of times I don't see a lot of people do like specialty, long-term care, open door pharmacy. It's usually not a combination of all three. You can. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, but it just depends on what kind of business you want to run.
Yeah, it seems kind of nice as an independent financial planner. I see a lot of similarities with you as an independent pharmacist to where I get to set the agenda for my business. I get to set the way I want to interact with my clients. I get to select some of the technology that I get to use with my clients. And if I really enjoy this part of the financial planning process, I can build a practice around it. I don't have someone above me necessarily telling me what I have to do. No one is setting my goals for me from somewhere else. So that seems
correct. Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of times looking with the chains, they try to push you. I know pharmacies changed quite a bit since I graduated in 2005. I think they've really they're driving these pharmacists. They're if you don't do so many immunizations a week, you're getting written up. If you don't do so many MTMs, and those are like medication therapy management sessions where we counsel patients and we can bill the insurance company for those. If you don't do so many per week, you get written up. So I don't want to run a pharmacy based on if you don't do this, you get written up. You don't do that. It's more like, let's have fun with this, but let's also, let's take care of our patients. All those things will come. We'll do all those things. It shouldn't be so much all these numbers driven. I mean, you got to make money, right? You got to make sure that all that's taken care of. But it's almost, I don't want to have to threaten pharmacists and go that way. We're gonna do this the right way.
And it also looks like owning your own business, whether it's your own business, pharmacy, whatever it may be, it's that quality of life. I can hear it. I can see it, that, you have a better quality of life now that you're that independent pharmacist.
I do.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that. Man,
thank you.
In closing, one more question. Is there anything that you would have done differently the first 5 years out of school?
Can I pause to answer on that question real quick? I keep putting the brakes on Xavier. I'm sorry, Xavier. I'm sorry. I want to go back to this idea of passion real quick. Because I think that's important. I think this is important for really everyone. I've got a business mentor of mine. He always says that your work should be your passion, or it should fund your passion. So if you think about that, your work, what you wake up to do every day, you should be passionate about it. If you're not passionate about it, it should be funding your passion. So sometimes, and let me parse those two out, is the three of us, we are incredibly blessed to be passionate about what we wake up to do every day. Like, this is fun for me. I love talking to people about money. I love helping people make good decisions. I know that's the case for Xavier, and just hearing you talk about your business, Jeff, it's clear that you're passionate about it. Unfortunately, not everyone has that opportunity to do work that they do that they're passionate about. So sometimes you don't have a choice. So if you're in a position where you're not passionate about it, make sure you do find your passion and find a way for the work that you're doing to fund your passion. Eventually, maybe your passion can become your work, but sometimes you have to grind it out, and sometimes you have to pay your dues, and sometimes you have to do things that you otherwise are not necessarily passionate about because it is funding your passion.
Exactly. Well, and you have to find ways to make money, because I'm not sure if you're familiar with DIR fees in pharmacy. On every brand name medication, you pretty much lose money. Every brand name medication, you're basically, you could lose $10, $15 plus on every single brand. So you have to find ways to become profitable, whether that's doing, like I said, during the COVID, we did COVID vaccines. Right now they're doing COVID tests. Everybody that comes in, 8 free tests a month. It could be some specialty pharma that we got into. So you got to find little niches, I guess, to make your money, find your place. Because yes, you do have to be profitable. That's you wouldn't stay. The doors wouldn't be open if you weren't profitable. But so yeah, they go hand in hand. I agree with that totally.
All right, Xavier, ask your question again. I'm done interrupting.
Thank you, Erik.
All right.
So, Jeff, from a financial standpoint, is there anything that you would do differently if you could go back the first 5 years out of school?
I was always a hard worker. I worked, overtime. Differently, I would have probably invested money, maybe worked less and became more knowledgeable about where to put my money. Because when I graduated, I was work. I'd work 60, 70 hours a week and really didn't have any time to even look at my money. So I think I would have tried to invest it better, whether it be short-term, long-term stocks, to make my money work, work for me, to make money. I wouldn't have to work as much. I mean, you can still work a good bit, but you got to take the time to figure out what to do with that money. And I think that's one thing I did not do. I was a workaholic. I worked a lot, try to save as much money as I can, as I could. And I basically didn't take the time to become knowledgeable about it, to sit down and look at things from different angles. So that's one thing I would have done differently. I probably would have, like I said, opened this pharmacy sooner if I would have known this. I mean, it's been a blessing, and we love it. I mean, yeah, that's about it, really. I mean, just those two things.
And that's a mouthful. I mean, you said a lot there, a lot packaged in a small amount of time. I concur with a lot of the things that you said. For those coming out of school, take time to build a relationship with an advisor or planner and have that individual help you to figure out what to do with your money. Come up with a strategy.
100%. Yes, sir.
I agree.
Great.
Well, Jeff, you will forever be memorialized as our first drug dealer on the Stuff About Money podcast. I've got I joke I've got a client who roasts coffee. So I joke that he's my drug dealer, and I run his money. So,
but
Erik, but he's never been on the podcast.
So I'm gonna leave you with a funny story, and this is going to be it for me. So you mentioned the drug dealer and making money. Grace was probably in kindergarten to first grade.
Grace is your daughter, right?
Grace is my daughter.
Okay, Grace is the daughter.
And it was career day, so the kids were going around and talking about what their parents did for work. And Grace's comment was, "My mommy makes drugs, and my daddy makes money for them." So,
goodness.
Yeah, needless to say, we had a conversation with the teacher after. She knew what we did, so she laughed about it, but she brought it and we talked about it. So
for context, listeners, Xavier's wife is a pharmacist.
Yes.
So Xavier is married to a drug dealer, and I'm assuming that he manages all the money that she makes selling her drugs.
Oh goodness! I do have one funny story before I let you go, and then before we end it. So a couple of years ago, me and my father-in-law went fishing, and I had this guy. He was a charter guy, and he's owned his own business, and he's like kind of funny. We were laughing about it the whole time. He's always time, patience, money. Time, patience, money. And you look at that, and we were laughing about it. Cracking jokes and like this, why does he keep saying that? But you look at it through life, and whether you own your own business, whether you day to day, and it's true, patience. We got to have patience with things we do. It takes time. takes time to make money. You know, and it all kind of goes together, you know, whatever angle you look at it, you know, I kind of, you know, crack, you know, jokes with him still today, my father-in-law, like that guy was actually right, you know. You know, he said it a lot and he was an older guy. And I'm like, it's true. I mean, it takes time, patience, and to get there, you know? So
yeah,
it's a little funny story, but
time, patience, and money.
One of my favorite quotes. It says, "Money made hastily dwindles, but he who gathers little by little keeps it." The way to build wealth is over time.
Sure, definitely.
Man, Jeff, thanks for taking time today. I know you got a lot of you got a lot of work to do. I know what it's like to run your own business, and when your name is on the sign, you're open 24/7. So,
well, thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to meet you, Erik.
All right,
appreciate you coming, Jeff. Take care.
All right, thanks, Xavier. Appreciate it. Have a good one,